Hello, friends. I say this every time I talk to you, but this time it's really true. It has been a long time since I've posted one of these videos. This semester I did sort of a rough count, and this semester alone I read between 15 and 20,000 pages of text themselves. So it was a lot, but I did reach a milestone. I have finished with my organized coursework now, and I am working on preparing for my field exams. I'll take my field exams, well, either at the end of the fall semester, probably more likely right after the beginning of the spring semester. And then in the spring semester, I will start working on my dissertation officially. So I am about halfway done. How did I get here? For those of you who've known me a long time, you know that my history with school was not great. I was totally unprepared for college right out of high school. And I struggled. I struggled a lot my first few years. So much so that by about 5 years in, I just walked away from it. Decided to just go to work and be done with that part of my life. I decided that, it just wasn't for me, that wasn't what I was supposed to do. And I entered a career field that paid the bills, but that was it. I wasn't passionate about it. It wasn't something that I really even enjoyed doing all that much. In fact, I didn't enjoy doing it at all. Working for tech companies, working on website development and database management, that just wasn't, that wasn't what I was passionate about. And I spent a lot of years being really bitter about that, being bitter about the fact that I wasn't where I wanted to be. I wasn't doing what I wanted to be doing. And I remember one time in 2006, I was at some kind of team building or leadership conference. I can't really remember now what it was. And the facilitator asked us to write down where we saw ourselves in 5 years. And I can remember being absolutely mortified because I couldn't see myself 5 years down the road. I didn't know where I would be 5 years down the road or what I would be doing 5 years down the road. I didn't even know who I would be 5 years down the road. And it absolutely terrified me. And so for the next few years, I really just spent time just sort of aimlessly meandering around, doing a whole lot of nothing. And then in 2010, a good friend of mine was finishing his dissertation for his doctoral degree. And he asked me if I would help him revise and edit and proofread it before final submission. And I agreed to do that. So we spent a lot of time together that summer. We got a chance to talk a lot about life and about, what was going on in mine and what my plans were. And he really encouraged me to go back to school. He said, I think that you missed your calling. What had happened leading up to that was that about a year before that, I had actually gone back to school. I had decided that I was going to go back and I was going to finish my degree. And so I had gone back to school. But that was during the period of time that I went down into that terrible hole of my anxiety and depression. And so I was not in school at the time. And he said, you need to go back and you need to finish. He said, I think that you can go all the way. I think that you can go all the way and get a PhD. I thought he was absolutely insane. I didn't even have enough credit to call myself a sophomore as an undergraduate. But I decided that summer that I was going to do it. And something changed then. And people have asked me before, what was it that changed? How was it that you went from being this really terrible student? And I was a terrible student. How did you go from being this really terrible student to ending up graduating with honors with both your undergraduate and your master's degree, and now you're almost finished with a PhD? What changed? Certainly nothing physically changed. I was still in the same place. I was still doing the same thing, basically, that I had been doing. was no better off financially, so that wasn't it. Was I a better student? Well, yes, but it wasn't because I had suddenly gotten a lot smarter. I was no smarter than I ever was. What changed for me was I took responsibility for my actions. I held myself accountable for my actions, and that gave me a purpose. You see, a lot of what I see today in my students and in just people in general is that there's a whole lot of lack of taking responsibility and lack of holding ourselves accountable for the things that we've done and the things that we're doing. And because of that lack of responsibility and that lack of accountability, we tend to project outward. We tend to blame other people and other things and other situations for the problems that we are having. And while there may be some blame to be placed on things in our past, childhood trauma is very real. I've talked about it before. And so while there may be some of that in our past that we have to deal with and that we have to recognize, there comes a point when we're adults that we have to move beyond that and take responsibility for our actions now and hold ourselves accountable for our actions and our decisions now and going forward. That's what changed for me. I wasn't any better off financially. I wasn't any smarter. I wasn't in any better location. What changed for me was I took responsibility for my actions and I held myself accountable for my decisions. And doing that gave me a purpose and it gave me a direction, something that I had been lacking all along. When I was asked that question, where do you see yourself 5 years from now? The reason I couldn't answer was because I had no direction. That's what was lacking in my life, was that direction. And the reason I couldn't find it was because I was focusing outward. I was blaming all of my problems and all of my difficulties on other people and on other situations. I blamed it on my dad. I blamed it on my family history. I blamed it on finances. I blamed it on, friends who weren't faithful to our friendship or whatever it was. I had lots of different people that I blamed things for. I blamed my anxiety. When I took responsibility for my own actions and when I took accountability for my own decisions, I was able to focus in on a purpose and on a direction. And I stopped being rudderless. I stopped drifting. It wasn't magic. Nothing magic happened. I took responsibility. I took accountability. And I had a direction. Now, if you were to ask me today, where do I see myself in 5 years? Ironically, my answer would be exactly the same. I have no idea. But instead of being terrified by that, instead of being absolutely paralyzed with fear, I'm excited about it. And I'm excited about it because what that means is I have a purpose and I have a direction. And I know that no one is responsible for what happens to me in the next 5 years except me. And that is a liberating feeling because when you realize that you and you alone are responsible, that is incredibly liberating. And it means that you can do anything that you want to do. And it means that when someone asks you, where do you see yourself in 5 years, and you don't know, that doesn't terrify you. It excites you. Accountability, responsibility, and purpose. That's what you need to succeed. Without those, you won't. But with those, you can do whatever you want to do. I hope that you're having a great day. I hope that wherever you are and whatever you're doing, you are well, you're safe, you're healthy and happy. And I hope that you have an awesome day. Hope you guys are good. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.